I'm crossing a bridge on the way to an orchestral concert. The bridge is a masterpiece of engineering. Complex calculus worked out by centuries of human brains keeps it from collapsing. The slightest error in the mathematics and the whole engineering project would have culminated in very wet disaster. Now, I approach symphony concerts with this precarious model in mind. The orchestral concert can be a glorious thing, but if you stand back and examine its components, if you analyse the ridiculous patterns of human tradition and behaviour that occur once people enter a concert hall, the whole thing collapses under the weight of its imposed seriousness. Right, here we are. Just switch my mobile off. I have a recurring dream about symphony concerts, and that dream involves deep space. In the dream, scientists send rockets off to find intelligent life in the cosmos. They place a piece of classical music in the satellite software because classical music, in all its intangible purity, sums up to us the unique quality of our humanity that sets us apart from other life forms. We could send the aliens something grander, a sports stadium, for example, or Paris, but the cost would be prohibitive. And in my dream, the craft travels for billions of miles until it enters a distant star system. There, an advanced alien culture uses tiny electric listening nodules located at the base of each one of their 11 legs to listen to a digitally encoded snatch of a Rachmaninoff symphony. The aliens love the music so much they send a delegation to Earth to hear more Rachmaninoff. A billion well-wishers tearfully wave the fleet off, crying from tear ducts in their stomach. The ship's powerful onboard computers detect a symphony concert in Britain that it can buy tickets for online. Light years later, the ship lands and the aliens enter the concert hall. That's where my dream turns to nightmare. Apart from getting very odd looks from the rest of the audience, the aliens clearly don't know the first thing about concert hall etiquette. They cheer when the conductor starts the music. They applaud after each instrument finishes a phrase, and they blow steam out of their arms. People are looking at them disapprovingly. The aliens suddenly feel alienated. They sense hostility, and they express this sensation by howling a high-pitched electronic signal that sets off someone's mobile phone. Tempers fray, and an elderly gentleman kindly tells the aliens they're spoiling the enjoyment of others, but is swiftly silenced when all of England is destroyed in a thermonuclear attack from the mothership. The aliens leave, and, to be on the safe side, the UN bans all music forever. Well, I'm now in the foyer, queuing for my ticket, and from the noise around me, you'd think the thermonuclear attack was still taking place. I always look forward to a symphony concert as an opportunity to enjoy a couple of hours of quiet reflection. But I always forget until I turn up at one that you need the concert just to recover from the 20 minutes that precedes it. Hi, ticket for tonight's concert, please. Rack 2, yeah. That's the geezer. I, like everyone else around me, have only got about 20 minutes to pay for my tickets, hand over my coat, buy a programme, decide whether my metabolism will survive without anything to eat until 10 o'clock, and if not, locate some soup of the day, or worst case scenario this, some black olive tapenade at £5.50 a serving, and still leave time to go to the toilet. If there's more than two of us, the chances of confusion and disaster multiply exponentially. Around me, I can see stranded husbands using their mobiles to establish contact with their wives in the ladies' loos. One of them, like a crestfallen Beagle scientist transmitting emergency call pulses to his space probe, has decided the last chance is over. He'll have to go in on his own, abandoning his wife to the vast, hostile wastes of the ladies' lavatory. And, as if to unsettle us further and shake old concert-goers out of their complacent quest for inner harmony, the organisers have booked Jazz in the Foyer. Jazz in the Foyer is one of those things like Mickey Mouse and the Commonwealth Games, which I've never heard anyone express a positive appetite for. They're just there. No one seems to get any outward pleasure from jazz in the foyer, but we're happy to put up with it and assume that someone else is getting the benefit. If only we could harness jazz in the foyer for the good of mankind. It's a dream, and not one I believe I'll see fulfilled in my lifetime. And suddenly, as we enter the auditorium, the atmosphere changes. The shrieking and panicking outside is replaced by murmuring, like crowds in a cathedral, as we take our seats. Concerts are faintly religious in layout and tone. The platform stands empty like an altar, and the hush and reverence, coupled with my own Catholic upbringing, always come close to making me genuflect before I move along the row containing my seat.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? If you have a mobile telephone or a watch with an alarm, would you please ensure they are switched off before the performance begins?
Here it's hard not to feel you're in a room of spiritual observance where tradition takes over, nothing need be explained, and most things are now forbidden. You cannot talk, smoke, use your mobile, eat sweets, clack your glass case shut, sneeze, remove false limbs, whimper, cry, stab, hiccup or cough. It's a room hulking with suppression. I fully expect an announcement instructing everyone to breathe in once at the beginning of the concert and wait until the interval before letting it out.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
At this stage, there isn't time to take in your neighbours. Later on, we'll get to know their every twitch and respiratory peculiarity, but for the moment, as the crowd hushes and the ceremony starts, there are enough strange wordless traditions to keep the mind occupied. When the orchestra walk on, for example, to applause from the audience, why don't they acknowledge that applause with thank yous instead of sauntering over to the seats as if they were in yet another rehearsal? A few of them look up at us, and the suspicion forms that the orchestra are judging us, that we're their concert for tonight. The quieter we are, the better our performance. Last night, our bronchial presentation was abysmal. The entry of the hacking phlegm attack in row S was out of all proportion to the more regulated coughing in the stalls. And how 17 people in row F managed to coordinate what amounted to a row-long Mexican sneeze is beyond the orchestra's understanding. The applause grows rapturous. Why? Any aliens here tonight would grow confused. Why is the conductor getting all this approval when he's clearly very late? Everyone was on the point of starting just as he eventually turned up. He should be ashamed of himself instead of giving it the big I am. This is the moment that never fails to surprise me at any concert, the fact that no one speaks to us. There are no welcomes or explanations. Our introduction to the music is compacted into programme note form. We're left to pick our way through the musical argument unaided. It's why, if you've had no formal musical training, and if the music isn't grabbing or familiar throughout, a musical concert can be an intimidating experience. Looking around me, why do I only spot members of the audience who reinforce this sudden collapse in my intellectual self-confidence? Those three people over there are nodding their heads along with the conductor, juddering the beat with their bodies, shutting their eyes and quite unconsciously mimicking the sweep of the baton with their right hand. They're immersed in every shape and twist of the sound. Why can't I be? As if to turn my fears to the stuff of nightmare, a man 4 down from me is following the music from his own score, a giant of a book that must have cost at least £100, which is also its weight. I console myself that though he may be cerebrally speaking quite cocky, he's also very clearly on his own. And so we come to the end of the first piece in the programme. If it's a new piece, there's polite applause. If it's a popular classic, there's also polite applause. Tradition dictates we mustn't go too wild so early on in a concert. I think back to accounts of concerts given in Beethoven's day. An orchestral piece may have been followed by a solo or chamber work, and often a movement from a concerto or symphony would be played 2 or 3 times over, the number determined by the size of the audience's enthusiasm. Concerts then sounded like raucous marathons, but fun. I wonder why we've petrified proceedings into the form they take today, where emotional responses to the music have to be internalised, and all public displays conform to a rigid code. I suppress the desire to shout, "God Almighty, that was gorgeous," as the conductor takes a bow. There's now a hushed sense of anticipation for the concerto that'll bring the first half of the concert to an end. By tradition, the soloist will be a former child prodigy from Eastern Europe. Last night, the audience was mesmerised by a 4-year-old Ukrainian baritone. Tonight, we're expecting someone who's made that difficult transition into full adulthood, her gift fully intact as she enriches her expressive range with the benefits of mature experience. And this is signalled by her wearing a low-cut red dress. She shakes the conductor's hand. I don't know why, since surely they've not just met. And she starts to play. Five away from me, a lady is watching her fingering through an expensive-looking monocular attached to the left lens of her glasses. Across the hall, in the cheap seats behind the orchestra, staring back at us, I see rows of young couples who've maybe come here on a whim or a first serious date, buying last-minute standbys. They're not all wholeheartedly engaged. In one pair, she clearly suggested the concert and he went along with it. Now he does his best to mimic interest while trying to avoid looking like he's trapped in hell. He clearly has no interest in Rachmaninoff. She entertains hopes of transforming him into an enlightened and sensitive male. He clearly hopes 2 more hours of this will pay dividends later tonight. The soloist looks to the conductor back to the soloist. Someone behind me coughs 3 times, and the orchestra seems to take this as their cue to stop and leave the soloist playing on her own. Her cadenza is brilliant. A man with a pad 3 in front of me writes down words to this effect. The boy in the cheap seat sees his girlfriend is enraptured and starts reading the programme notes for something to do before moving on to the wording on the soles of his shoe. The cadenza grows in complexity. The anticipation is palpable. The orchestra brings the music to a close. Crowds cheer. The boyfriend rushes off to the bar so he can order a drink for his girlfriend, so she won't be rushed in the interval, so they can get back in time, so they won't miss a second of the next half. And the soloist gets up and shakes hands with the conductor again, who introduces her to the leader of the orchestra, which seems a strange time for her to start networking, and she is presented with flowers and led off stage, sweating like a boxer. The audience roar, she comes on again, then off. They roar further. They'll not be satisfied until she comes on, then goes off again. The boyfriend in the bar downs his first pint of Stella. She comes on, then goes off again. The audience are satisfied, the noise now dips, she comes on again, having badly misjudged the audience's demands. She bows as the audience leave for the toilets. She vows never to come here again, even to give up her playing career. She goes off and throws the flowers into a sand bucket.
Ginger. I really enjoyed it.
Well, it's now the interval, so I'm lifting my feet up off the floor so I can get carried along by the audience as they stampede out to the bar. The interval contains all the noise and mayhem I encountered in the foyer, but in 1/10 of the space. To make it even more difficult, most of the bar has been taken up by the men who played jazz in the foyer, who've been camping here for the past hour. Penned in at the corner is the boyfriend, who's summoning up enthusiasm for the second half by steadily getting drunk while surrounded by tenor saxophones. It's like a 3-dimensional Hieronymus Bosch painting in here, but fortunately I don't have to plunge in because I calculate it's taken me 10 minutes to get here, which means we're at the halfway point in the interval and it's time to head back.
No break. Blair he's not quite a genuine communist, he's getting pretty close to it. So sorry from that premise.
It's a little known fact that if you examine the till receipts of 100 years of concerts in any region of Britain, you'll discover that only 4 people have managed to purchase any drinks. As the symphony starts, it dawns on me that, just as in religious ceremony, it's perhaps wrong to search for a purely intellectual rationale. This is how we do live music. And while it may seem absurd, there are more than enough moments of magic and mystery to shake us out of our cynicism. Being at a concert, it strikes me, as the boyfriend falls asleep 4 bars in and starts dribbling on his girlfriend's knee, though his dead neck makes his head nod in sleep, fortunately in time to the music, so his girlfriend thinks he's become totally engaged in the piece, and makes a mental note to go to bed with him and buy tickets for tomorrow night's concert, an all-Hindemith programme, how he'll love it. And as the woman in front attaches a large mass spectrometer to her glasses so she can examine in more detail the atomic makeup of the dot of ink on the 3rd crotchet on the 2nd tuba player's sheet music, it strikes me that an orchestral concert is a drama, with the instruments as separate players. Very often, I found I don't need books and years of study to follow the structure of the music if I concentrate on watching the orchestra. It's possible to see in front of you phrases leap from one side of the platform to another, to pass from strings to brass to woodwind and back. Focusing on what's in front, the distractions at the corner of your eye disappear. You begin to see music act itself out before you. We come to the end of the first movement and 1 or 2 people clap. The rigid order of the event asserts itself. The names and addresses of the troublemakers are passed on to the police, and after the concert they're taken away and arrested for clapping between movements. At their trial, the judge gives them a heavy sentence, saying it's necessary to make an example of scum like them. And so for the rest of the evening, I slip in and out of this realisation that attending a concert is all about watching music become human. It's not about perfection and abstraction, it's about fallibility and disorder. It's about moments when you feel totally captivated for a few seconds or so before being reminded of where you are and who you're sitting with. It's not a free ride. You may have paid for the ticket, but you're expected to work. You must watch carefully where the music's going, and then you'll be rewarded. Which is why, at the end of the concert, I sometimes think it rather spoils things when we shout for more. Shouting more and more is us saying to the orchestra, work more for free. They'd be perfectly entitled to shout back, well, pay us more. But they don't, and the conductor performs the ritual of walking off, then on again, and this time the audience gets it right and everyone's honour is satisfied. But there's always that curious letdown at the end as we leave the auditorium. If the concert has provided even one thrilling memory, I want to share it with everyone. So why isn't the building full of people hugging perfect strangers next to them, saying, "Wasn't that wonderful? That bit where the clarinet suddenly came in with the phrase that started with the strings, wasn't it simply great?" But instead, people talk about where to go for buses and taxis and late cafes. We all prefer to keep our emotional responses silent, like a congregation leaving midnight mass, too embarrassed to talk about God. But then, walking home back across the bridge, I think maybe there's no need to talk about it. Whatever happened, happened, and maybe it'll happen again next time too. The young couple stride towards a kebab van, and in the car park, 2 perfectly happy space aliens get back in their galactic cruiser and head for Alpha Centauri. As it takes off, the ship's ion-powered engines release a pulse of energy which causes every mobile phone in every concert throughout the world to start ringing forever. Hello? Yeah, no, it was good. Yeah. Okay, well, we're across the bridge. Where should we meet you? Okay. Yeah, I'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay. That was all right.
This download is brought to you